Impact Wrestling. So this week is Slammiversary week. For me, it's like my WrestleMania week. It's the most exciting time period. I always say this, I've been an Impact TNA wrestling fan for absolutely years. And what I wanted to do to celebrate it was every day this week I am going to put one of my favourite matches from history of TNA Impact. And the first match that I've chosen is not an old school one like you may have thought. It is actually one from 2019 Slammiversary. It is billed as the first ever intergender match to headline a pay-per-view. The interesting thing about TNA Impact, it has always been a promotion that has pushed the limits. It has always been a promotion that has wanted to do something that's big, better and change. You look at the X division, we went for a number of years without a cruiserweight division or a cruiserweight division that was any good. I mean, I grew up in WCW, and the WCW cruiserweight division for me personally was one of the best things in wrestling history. Okay, I'm a small guy, I'm 5'8", so you watch these other small dudes doing what they have to do, absolutely remarkable stuff. And then when the X Division and TNA came about, we got it again, and it pushed limits. Ultimate X matches, God, very special. And then we also look at the Knockouts division. The Knockouts division, I always say to people, and people can agree or disagree, and I'm happy about that. I've always been happy for people to do that with me, debate it. The Knockouts division was the real women's evolution. Was a changing point in wrestling where we saw female wrestlers not just being sex objects but being legit. Look at Awesome Kong, look at OBD, look at flipping Gail Kim, one of the greatest of all time. And then we got the beautiful people such as Angela Love and flipping Velvet Sky and that's what Impact has always given us as the fans. It's given us something edgy, different. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying intergender wrestling was invented by Impact Wrestling, because we know back in the day with Andy Kaufman, WWE Hall of Famer, he had that very, very staged and very, very staged open challenge for women to have a scrap with him, and he sort of gave the concept that he was the open weight world champion, okay, and that kind of led into all the stuff with Jerry the King. And then we've got like people like China. You look at China. I mean, China was an Amazonian goddess. The size of her was absolutely remarkable. And she was fundamentally a bodybuilder, but she was given the opportunity in WWF. And we saw her winning three intercontinental titles. And then, we did not forgetting the Hardcore Championship either. We had Molly Holly, we had Trish, we had the Godfather's Hose, okay, win the belts there. And we look into things like Mexico. Intergender wrestling in Mexico has been going on for a long time, mixed female tag teams. And this is the funny thing about wrestling, is it's always been there. It just takes people to push the next step. Because you look at Impact, we've got people like Jordynne Grace, and Jordynne Grace, big bodybuilder, warrior in that sense, had great matches against people like Matt Cardona for the digital media belts. But we had Tessa Blanchard before that pushing the limits of intergender wrestling. I mean, she had great matches against Ace Dawson, Madman Fulton, Adam Fernstone, Dave Crisp, and she had so many mixed tag team matches where she teamed with Cage, Dreamer, Trey Miguel against Sami Callihan's lads. And Tessa Blanchard, whatever viewpoint you have of her, she was a concept in wrestling that was important at the time period. She pushed limits. And I personally think it opened the door up for wrestlers like Masha Slamovich, former GCW world champion, okay, and so in the intergender world. And you know what? I'm going to say this, and it's going to be very controversial to a lot of people. If Tessa Blanchard wanted to come back to Impact Wrestling tomorrow, I would take her with a handshake, because her talent basis was absolutely brilliant. Great wrestler, all right? And where I do believe she probably needs to apologise to a lot of people, I would take her back because she was a great wrestler, a great talent. And this is why my first match of today is SummerSlam 2019. It is an important SummerSlam, particularly for Sami and Tessa, because of the storytelling basis. So in 2019, we saw Tessa absolutely destroy professional wrestling. Everybody was talking about her. No one was watching her, interestingly enough, because the stats never really changed on Impact Wrestling in that concept. But everybody was talking about her. Everyone was talking about her, so in that sense. And we saw her have great matches against Jake Crisp and one of Sami's lads, and we saw her whoop his ass. We saw her use her speed and her absolutely amazing ability using moves such the Magnum and stuff like that won that match. And it built a story, it built a tale, and it was a very long tale, don't get me wrong. And I talked about it this week, last week on Impact, my Impact Wrestling review show, that Impact is all about the storyline. It's all about the build of a product. It's about the build of the character, and that's what they did with Tessa. And this is what this match was so important about. This match that we're going to do a little mini watch along, I suppose, is important in that sense. And it was the product of this match that I think was the starting of the rebuild of Impact Wrestling and where we are currently in what I'm saying, the new era. So we're going to watch it. I've got it on my phone here. It's on mute so you can't hear it. So I'll talk us through the match, but this is what we're going to be doing. This is what we're going to be doing for the next 7 days, all the way up to Slammiversary. I'm going to be talking about my favourite match. This is quite a late one, fundamentally, 2019. And the reason why I wanted to start with this, because I think this was one of the important matches that pushed us into this new era. But we're going to jump tomorrow straight back into back in the day with old school TNA. What I have a major passion for. All right, I have a passion for Impact, but I have a major passion for old school TNA. So let me just get my phone ready, and we can jump on with this. So we are. Headline. This is the headlining match. This was in Dallas, Texas, 2019. This match this pay-per-view was sold out. Absolutely sold out. And that was brilliant and remarkable in that sense. And it was built around a storyline of Sami Callihan calling out female wrestlers like a sexist pig that his character was, and saying they're weak, they're pathetic. Okay, I can batter women. And as I said a minute ago, we saw in this same year that flipping Crisp got his ass whooped by Tessa. So let's get on with this. Let's start this. So the point is, where we'll start is Sami Callihan's coming out. He's coming out with his very famous Callihan Slugger. You still see him walking out with and he comes out with Madman. And the amazing thing about this is, this Sami Callihan is probably the best and the worst Sami Callihan ever. So the Sami Callihan you kind of see now is the very sort of like heavy metal, sort of like thumbs up, thumbs down. He's always had that concept and that characteristic. But this one here was at the best of his heel ability. I saw this great story a little while ago where Bully Ray said he went to Vince McMahon and he had this idea for a concept of being a sort of like arsehole, horrible, sexist heel. Okay, and he brought that to Impact Wrestling after WWE turned it down. And this is kind of what Sami's characteristic is here. His characteristic is a sexist, horrible heel. All right, and this is what is important to know here, because that was the storyline that opened the doors up to this whole thing when Tessa went into his face. So Tessa's currently coming out here, and she comes out, she looks at the crowd. The crowd, by the way, are very on her side. Sami's hated, and she goes back in and gets herself a bat. Because he's got a bat, she's thinking, oh, I have a bat. All right, I'm going to match up face to face in absolutely everything he does. The crowd is 150% on Tessa's side here. Sami is being hated, and I think later on in this particular match, the announcers say something along the lines of, you normally see it 80-20 or 50-50, But this match was 100% on Tessa's side. And I was 100% on Tessa's side watching this. I'm not going to lie. Even though I love Sami, okay, I was 100%. Sami is doing great stuff here as well. I just want to tell you this for characteristic. He's sitting outside of the ring just looking, oh, you're another woman. You're a woman that I'm going to put flat on her ass, beat the living crap out of. And that's his kind of attitude towards this. And Tessa has come in. Her face is straightforward. She is looking straightforward. She wants that fight. She wants that fight more than anything. She gets the bat. She points it towards him. Okay, all right, in an aggressive manner. All right, and Sami's just walking around. Tessa puts the bat in the corner. Sami's just walking around. He's like thinking, what's the point of this, mate? I'm here at a pay-per-view, headlining a pay-per-view, and I believe this might be his first headlining Impact pay-per-view on that note as well. And he's thinking to himself, look, what am I doing here? I'm versus a woman. Okay, what's she going to do to me? And that was the important context of the story build for this whole entire thing. Tessa is giving him a mouthful straight in his face. Sami's giving her a mouthful straight back in her face. And we see him getting comfortable. Tessa's currently taking off her waistcoat. Sami's sort of circling her in a lot of ways. Tessa's actually watching him, and I think these are the little bits that are super interesting. Tessa is watching to see what he's doing because he's a cheeky git. He's probably going to go in there and try to attack her straight away. And this is the great bit of this match, of the storytelling. Storytelling. Yes, I go on about it and I apologise, but this is the great bit of the storytelling. Is who's going to move first? Who's going to go forward first? Who's going to push forward? Who's going to be the most aggressive first? Sami's shouting off his mouth, playing with his hair. The crowd are still on Tessa's side. Sami is not particularly liking this. Okay, you can tell this. But it helps him long-termly that he just gets pissed off. And do you know who steps forward first? It's Tessa. And do you know it's great context because Tessa was the one that stepped to Sami first. Sami steps back again. And Tessa steps in. Tessa is trying to alpha him as much as possible to make him feel uncomfortable. Ring psychology is absolutely brilliant here. Okay? And Sami doesn't give a shit. This is the great thing about it. Sami legit does not give two shits about this. And he does not give a crap. And he taps her on the head and there's a slap. And Sami pulls the gun right into her noodle, and Tessa doesn't like this. Tessa's doing it straight back, and Tessa's going smash in the face. Okay, all right, and then it's straight onto the floor. Tessa is beating the living shite out of Sami. Okay, all right, and we see a beautiful hurricanrana by Tessa. Sami kind of rolls out of the ring. He's on the apron. All right, and we see this amazing drop kick off the ropes, and Sami's out. And this is where I think Tessa's mistake long-termly and short-termly was within this match. She comes out, she does a cracking suicide dive. She rolls back in the ring, and she comes in and does it again. Now, this is the beginning of the end in my perspective. Tessa rolls back in. Okay, Sami stays outside. Tessa's going to go for one more. The crowd know this. All right. And she comes in. She is caught by Sami. She tries the hurricanrana. Sami actually gets her and smashes her face twice into the guardrails, then smashes her onto the floor with I don't know, whatever you want to call it. It was like a big slam, an F2, an F4, whatever you want to call it, that kind of concept. And the referee's gone straight over to her because we can see the beginning of the end in that concept. And this is the great thing about this match. It's all storytelling. It's all learning. And Tessa's learning and learning because there's a longevity to this. All right. And Tessa's on the floor. Sami's rolled himself back in. He's given himself 2 or 3 minutes. Yeah, so he gives her that Death Valley driver. All right. And she's laying on her back. Sami's in there. He's just riding up the crowd. He's giving himself a couple of seconds. He's giving Tessa some time to get up. Tessa rolls herself back into the ring. And I think what was important there was Sami took advantage, because Sami is a hardcore wrestler, fundamentally. He's taken advantage of using the outside space of the ring. And they're outside of the ring again. Oh yeah, and this is where he gives her, he gives her a Death Valley driver onto the side apron. And she is now rolling around that floor with her back aching to bloody hell. Alright? He's just looking at the crowd. He's adjusting his waistcoat. He's adjusting himself. He's getting up to the flipping top rope, and he's not doing it to jump. He's on the other side of the ring. He's just looking at the crowd thinking, why are you chanting for this woman? Why are you chanting for this woman? Okay, she ain't gonna win. See how small she is. See how tiny she is. See how unsuperior she is. And Tessa gets back into the ring because Sami thinks he's got the count. And he's shouting at the crowd. And Tessa is there watching, hunting, ready to devour him as much as she possibly can. She's struggling to get up, but you can see she wants to get up. And Sami's like, why are you getting up? And boots her straight in the noodle. And the thing about it is, Sami Callihan, alright, that lad, alright, does not give two shits. He's hitting you. He is hitting you, alright? And you see Tessa trying her best, boomed him in the stomach. And all Sami did was whack her in the back, and it looked like it killed. Now this is a great reversal by Tessa, and we see a sort of like a cuttery sort of thing that she does here. Tessa's hurting still. Sami's on the floor. Her neck is killing. She comes off the ropes and she is trying to go for a lariat of some sort, and all Sami does is boot her so aggressively. I want to tell people this. My wife refused to watch this match. And the Hard to Kill match later on because of how Sami Callihan sort of ragdolled her, which I can understand. But the context and the story, all right, long termly shows who wins this match and who is the true champion. And it doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man or whoever, and that's the thing. Now we are seeing the referee looking at, we're seeing Tessa struggling getting up on them ropes, and we see Sami going up again, just slamming her on the floor, ragdolling her to absolute hell. And Sami looks at the fucking crowd every single time, squaring the eyes and telling them. And now he's looking at the ref and he's telling the ref that flipping, no, this is done, mate, this is done. That's his attitude here. His attitude is, do you want more, princess? And it can be, I'm not going to lie, I'm watching this now, it can be uncomfortable to watch in moments here because it does look like a man just beating the living shit out of a woman. But it's the determination, alright? It is the determination and the passion of Tessa Blanchard you cannot fucking deny here. She wants this, she wants to win this, and she knows she has to take on a full-grown bloody man. Now, we see Sami going into a move. He's going to go for the thumbs up, thumbs down sort of stuff he does, into a sort of a Death Valley Driver sort of thing. And we see Tessa fighting back absolutely fantastically. Right, Tessa comes in. She cutters him on the sort of like the ramp. And we see them both drag themselves back into this ring. And again, it's storytelling. It's storytelling of a woman that is hurt. She is hurt, but she is fighting back. She ain't letting this geezer get on top of her, get a win this match. She's not going to let this happen. Okay? Alright? But Sami drags her back. Alright? I believe the ref's counting at this point. And Sami's dragged her back, and Sami's trying to get into that ring as best as possible. Tess is holding to his back legs. They're crawling together. This is the story. This is the desperation. Sami doesn't want to be embarrassed that he was beaten by a woman. Tessa wants to prove the world that she can beat a man. Okay? Alright? And they are back in the ring again. The referee is talking to them and being dead honest with them, saying, are you guys okay, man? Are you guys okay? Sami is looking at her like a piece of meat. Tessa is looking at him like, I want to fuck you up, son. And he is going, hit me. Hit me. And this is why this is one of my favourite matches, because of moments like this. And Tessa smacks him and Sami is starting to feel it. Sami is starting to feel it. Sami puts his fingers up right into her face. Tessa starts smacking him, giving him beautiful, beautiful cracking elbows, and starts just going for him like a crazy person. But The power and the strength of Sami overcomes it. Sami gets herself up, smacks her straight into the belly. Tessa gets him up in the air. I don't know, she struggled. She drops him to a Samoa drop, okay? But that was hard work. Because he's 200 pounds, 200. He must have been 80 pounds more than her. Tessa goes to the top rope. I believe she's going to try to hit the Magnum right now. The crowd are with her. The crowd are going, Tessa, 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 Tessa. We can see the spirit and the heart. Sami moves. The spirit and the heart. Oh, do you know what? I love them sort of like luchador moves because she has a lucha background where they spin all the way around. They end up DDT, and she just did that to Sami, a two thing. But she has the passion, all right, of Magnum TA, all right, and she also has the grit of Tully, her dad, her stepdad, and her dad, and you can see how she has been sort of like brought up in the wrestling industry for this particular reasoning. And how she is brought up in the wrestling industry for this reason. And we're seeing her go again. She's trying for another DDT, all right? She doesn't quite get it. Sami gets her back in the air. She rolls Sami up, pushes Sami out. Sami moves her again. And I believe he's going to go... Sami goes for, what do they call it? A half and half suplex thing where you drop her onto the shoulder. Tessa's injured shoulder. I might have got that move wrong, and I apologise about that. And we see Sami consistently slammer on the floor. He gets her into a crossfacey sort of thing, and you, as the announcer, the commentator says at this particular time, you can see how hard he's doing it. His knuckles are going white. He is putting so much effort into this move, and you can see how much he's hurting her. All right, you can see that Sami Callihan is not going easy on this lass. All right, and I think from a artistic perspective, that is the right thing to do. All right, Sami's laughing like a lunatic. He's shouting his mouth off like a crazy man in that sense. And do you know what the thing about it is? One of my biggest thought processes, Tessa does get to the ropes at this point. One of my biggest thought processes watching this match, I've watched it 3 or 4 times the last few days, back in 2019 as well, was I'm wondering how Tully and Magnum are feeling at home or backstage or wherever they are watching this, because this is watching your stepdaughter being ragdolled like hell. Okay, but proving how much of an hard nut she is at the same time, and that is my perspective. If I was the father, that's what my thought process would be. Now, Sami does a bit of sort of like crowd shouting in this sense. He drags over Tessa up to the second rope, and basically is going for I believe it was going to go for some sort of tombstone. Tessa kicks him down, all right. And he's now 2 legs are split onto the ropes. Tessa brings him down for some sort of very messy DDT that looked like it smashed her dead in the nose, because she's actually grabbing her nose quite a lot. So there could have been a possible injury there. In that sense, she looks like she's feeling it at this point. And it looks like, in all honesty, he's feeling it at this point as well. And I think we've got maybe... let me have a look how much we've got left. We've maybe got 6 minutes left of this match, maybe 5-6 minutes of this match left. After that messy DDT, it looked like it hurt Tessa more than it did Sami, in all fairness. But Sami's going again, goading her, going, smack me, elbow me, hit me. And she's just going for it. And the referee's pulling away. And basically Tessa at this point, this is again, as I said, a downfall concept in this element, is Tessa accidentally elbows Sami, and Sami grabs the baseball bat and chunks her right in the head, and you see Tessa go down like nuts in that point. And I think this is one of the greatest points of this match, is the storytelling. Sami has to go for it, and he's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The referee's out, Sami. All right, you cheated, you get. All right, and the referee's out. That's called comeuppance. Sami loses his shit and just smacks the referee at this point. All right, and he is off his nutter now. He is pissed that this wasn't the easy ride that he was hoping for. Okay, yes, right. We look at the things he did. His tag team partners did lose matches against her. Okay, all right, but Sami was like, this ain't happening to me, and he gets the bat. And he puts the bat straight out. And Tessa spits in his face, square in his face, and then low blows him like a nut. And she picks up her golden bat, and cracks him right in the stomach. Very similar to what Sami would have done. All right. Tessa's nose is bleeding, so it's sort of like my concept of her nose being hurt. It was correct. Tessa goes up to the top rope. All right. And Sami's sort of rolling himself away, getting far away as possible as he can from her. And she goes for a front backstabber, so it hits his face. The referee is there. 1, 2. Do you know what? It was a unconvincing 2. And she goes for a crossface. Sami's strength and power moves him across the rope. And this is the story of this towel. Tessa turns it over. We all think at this point, back in 2019, that Sami's tapping out. Tessa's going to come in, and she has become this idol in wrestling at this element. Now, we see Sami again using the strength and the power, gets her up, and we see him do a tombstone at this point. Boom. 1, 2. Tessa ain't having it. This girl ain't having it. This girl's on fire. This girl ain't having this. She ain't losing. She's screaming. She's like, I ain't losing to you, son. Sami's face is like, what have I got to do, mate? What have I got to do to take this woman down? Just remember where this story comes from. He said women are pathetic, being a sexist flipping pig that he is. And she came out face to face, so he thought this was going to be bloody easy. Bloody easy. But this wasn't. And this is the moral of the story. This was not easy. This was not going to be a convincing win. This wasn't going to be a 2 seconds. And we see Tessa thumbs up, thumbs down him. We see Sami take her up for another massive kind of tombstone thing. And then it's 1, 2, 3. Sami Callihan wins this match. Now, hear me out why this match will be going into my top 5 or 6. All right, hear me out. There's the reason that this match was a kind of first, supposedly, in wrestling, the first pay-per-view to headline an intergender match. First, love that. Second is the storytelling prior to this. We know Tessa could fight with the men. We know Tessa could scrap with the men. And we knew she was legit hard. She later on beats people like Falcon, Crisp, Jake Crisp, many tag team matches in that sense. But this storyline, this was the beginning or the end in a lot of ways, because Tessa comes back and learns all of her mistakes, all of her things, and she comes and beats Callihan in 2020 and becomes the first heavyweight champion of the world. So I always go to people that 2002, 2007 was what I'd call the golden era of Impact Wrestling. And then we have the platinum era of Impact Wrestling till 2007, 2013, where we have people like Kurt Angle and all of these guys come in and do great work. And 2013 to 2017, 18 was a dark era, man. It wasn't always great. It wasn't always amazing. All right. There was more bad weeks than good weeks. But then from about 2018, there was a rebuilding. And no matter what people want to say, people like Tessa Blanchard was a major part of the rebuilding of the brand, the product. And this match was a major rebuilding point for this product as well. Sami Callihan still with us at Impact. Absolutely brilliant wrestler, fantastic. And he was so important to the product as well. And this is what's got to be remembered. At this point after the match, Sami puts 2 bats together and he's clapping the bats. He's clapping the bats like a man that has just absolutely ragdolled a woman about the ring. And this is the thing. Alright. Sami Callihan kind of shows a little bit of respect, but this ain't over. This ain't fucking over. And 2020, alright, is the year that shows us this isn't over. Tessa Blanchard is very important to the rebuilding of Impact Wrestling. Sami Callihan is very important to the rebuilding of Impact Wrestling. This match is very important to the rebuilding of Impact Wrestling, to what the product we see today is. And I think that is what's got to be remembered. Now, honestly, I'm not going to say this is the best match ever. This is one of my favourite matches, and this is a really, really important match. But look, guys, all right, go and watch the match yourself. It's free on YouTube, man. It's free on YouTube. You don't have to get Impact Plus or anything like that. It's a free pay-per-view on YouTube. Jump on there, watch it. Watch the whole pay-per-view. It's a great pay-per-view all in all. But particularly watch that match. It is so important to the development of Impact Wrestling, to what it is now. And you know what? As I said, I'll take Tessa back anytime. Anytime, any day. All right? And I will see you tomorrow at a similar time, in between 9 and 10. And we'll be talking about my next favourite Slammiversary match. Happy Slammiversary week, guys. It's going to be a good one.